It's been almost 7 months since news of the toxic chemical leak at the Williamtown RAF base first broke. Now residents are joining forces, launching a class action against the Department of Defence in their quest for compensation.
What else can residents do other than send a very clear message to Defence, to the Australian Government, that this is not on, this is not acceptable?
Rihanna Gorfine is one of the residents leading the charge. She says some homeowners in the red zone have been refused property valuations, while others have been told their homes are practically worthless.
People have their whole life and future invested in these properties, and the fishermen have had no income for over 7 months.
Something Chantel Walker knows all too well. Since the fishing bans came into effect, life has become a daily struggle.
Every day you wonder where the finances are going to come from to just pay, utility bills and home loans and insurances and things like that.
The Greens say it's little surprise residents have resorted to legal action.
It's been 3 months since the Senate inquiry and still the Defence Minister hasn't visited the site and the Turnbull government hasn't announced appropriate compensation measures.
Defence says while it's aware of talk of a class action, it's yet to be contacted directly. A Sydney law firm has agreed to take on the case with financial backing from a well-known litigation sponsor. The next phase is to sign up affected residents, and it's hoped many will do just that at a public meeting next week. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It's been in long need of attention and today brought good news for the Newcastle Athletics track. An $800,000 grant from the Baird government, set to create a premium training ground for wheelchair athletes. A new lane will be created, its courser surface better suited to their training conditions.
The addition of the disability track here is just a wonderful thing to engage more of the community and promote people with a disability to get into athletics.
The entire track will be resurfaced, while the long jump pits will also be restored. It's a move aimed to attract more regional competitions to the area, while the state government hoping it will act as a training ground for Paralympians preparing for the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games.
The reason we're really excited is this is a wonderful investment to enhance this track, but this is all about community. You look around how many community groups are engaged and utilise this facility. We're very proud that this is the sort of facility that we're able to invest with this sort of funding.
Athletics New South Wales is aiming to commence work in the coming weeks.
The overall project, I believe, is a little bit over $1 million, but just talking to the clubs here now, they're going to start within a few weeks. They've got to wait for the right weather conditions, apparently.
Samantha Long, NBN News.
The investment that's been made here today, the investment that continues to be made in this particular area, is one that gives me a great deal of pride and thankfulness.
We need to stop burning coal now, and if the government isn't going to do that, I think it's up to people, farmers, nanas, locals to lock on and do what they can.
It's a site that's got hunter fishermen breathing a sigh of relief. The recent contamination crisis along the Hunter River doing little to slow down the number of people queuing for the key ingredients for a seafood Easter feast.
Public can be 100% satisfied that there's nothing coming out of those areas that are or allegedly contaminated. So, it's perfectly safe what they buy from us.
Hundreds of people lining up from the early hours of this morning.
Fish, prawns, oysters.
Do you come down here every year?
I come down every week. I don't have to wait like this.
Doesn't matter what time you come, it's always busy, always a lineup.
Although it's not the co-op's busiest period of the year, Easter trading keeps staff run off their feet, selling copious amounts of crustaceans.
By this afternoon, we would have sold, and tomorrow, probably about 4 or 5 tonnes of prawns and a couple of tonnes of fillets and a couple of tonnes in whole fish as well.
Meanwhile, bakeries across the city went into overdrive, producing hot cross buns by the thousands. Euro Patisserie in New Lambton had all the range, from chocolate delight to everyone's classic favourite, the fruit bun.
People love them at this time of year. That's why we try not to do them too early in the year. We usually start about a month before Easter.
Samantha Long, NBN News.
It was a roll of the dice that didn't pay off.
I'm coming here, felt like I was not guilty, but obviously they've made their decision. It was a fair hearing, and looking forward to next week.
Matautia was facing 1 week on the sideline whether he took the early guilty plea or not. But challenging the charge and losing means he's incurred an extra 38 carryover points.
I understand what's happened in the past, and I guess it has been a fair hearing, and just obviously disappointed with the decision, but I guess look forward to next week, as I said.
A loss his teammates felt today.
He had a blinder on the weekend, but unfortunate what happened. But it's the way the game goes. So we've got to put that behind us, and whoever plays there, I'm pretty sure he'll be able to get the job done.
Who that will be isn't yet clear. Corey Dennis and Nathan Ross both did some work at centre today. Jake Mamo showed no sign of his ankle injury before rejoining the full session, while Akuyuwate was back on the wing in what looks like one less headache for coach Nathan Brown.
Yeah, he trained full session today, so hopefully he'll be right for the weekend. He gets a set started, and he's a handful of Aku, so we need him in our team.
Randall and Levi have been sharing hooking duties. That looks set to continue in Monday's clash with the Warriors, in what will be, again, a tough task for the forward pack, but confidence is high.
As you saw against Canberra, our forwards can really stand up and get the task done, so we're just looking to build on top of that.
So they've got a pretty big team, Canberra, and they've been going well at the start of the year, so to come over a draw is definitely a positive for us moving forward.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
If we maximise every fixture now, we'll obtain 36 points. And if you look at the last 4 years, the average to achieve finals football is 35 points. So if we can get 36 and not creep into the final series, I see that as a good year. Yes, we are progressive in our thoughts and planning for next year, but at this point our focus is the next 3 games.
They've already won the game once and are in a position probably now to win it again. So the pressure's on them, if anything, and we're just going to go out and enjoy ourselves and see if we can shake things up. They'll be setting fields deep, which they can afford to do because there's no restrictions or anything. They can only use 2 bowlers if they want as well, So it's going to be interesting. It's a situation that we've never been in before, so we'll see how we go.
Bins as far as the eye can see, but no collections. The sight and smell too much for greeters Jacob Holden.
I come home from work at 7:45 on Wednesday night after 3 days of 35-degree heat. Nice, still, dead afternoon. Driving along with the window down, and it just smelt like I was driving through a slum in Sri Lanka or something. It was horrendous.
It follows a last-minute strike of council's outdoor workers on Monday, affecting parts of Greater Branxton, Western and Abermain. Tammy Waters says bins can't take any more rubbish.
I couldn't stand the smell anymore. I couldn't. And that's why, I mean, I've got a 2-year-old and we have nappies. And imagine a week worth of nappies that should have gone out on Monday from the week before.
Cessnock Council says affected residents will have to wait until Easter Monday to have last week's rubbish collected, or they can dispose of it for free at the council tip. But residents have let loose on council's Facebook page, saying the situation isn't good enough. Not everyone has a trailer to remove the rubbish, and a discount in rates should be given.
I'm not looking forward to all the seafood after today being in the bins.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
It's the sound no motorist wants to hear this long weekend. Operation Tortoise has been underway for just over 24 hours. Double demerits are in force, and a number of holiday travellers have already been caught out on our roads.
On the first day of the operation, we had 1,200 motorists breath tested in the Newcastle Coast Cluster. 60 motorists were dealt with by way of speeding infringement notices, and numerous other infringement notices issued. We have had no fatal collisions overnight, which is a great thing.
This morning, traffic was bumper to bumper at Hexham, with queues of up to 5 kilometres. With 87 deaths on New South Wales roads this year, police have pledged to reduce fatalities by 30% before 2021.
This is more than a number. People need to realise this is not just a statistic. These are lives. These are 87 lives that have been lost.
In the past 3 weeks, 7 people have been killed on Hunter roads alone, a worrying sign which has highway patrol officers anxious for the days ahead. They're pleading with motorists to drive to the conditions, with wet weather forecast along the coast.
The main message is plan your trip, identify the signs of fatigue, don't drive under the influence of any substance, slow down and get there safely.
Samantha Long, NBN News.
It's very similar to the movies in the fact that we have that kind of humour, so it's for both children and adults alike.
Last session on home turf, another intense hit-out.
We're going over there to get a win and nothing else.
Jared Mullen was back after missing yesterday with illness, while Jake Mamo and Aku Uate both completed the full session.
They've really pushed through their injury to try and get to where they are now. So, you know, all the best credit to them. You know, they're putting themselves in a position where they want to play football and get back into first grade.
But Uate won't be heading across the Tasman. Instead, Mamo will play on the wing, while there's a strong chance 18-year-old Corey Dennis will play at centre after training there most of the week. The Knights are desperate for a win, driven by last week's draw with Canberra. But they know the Warriors won't be easy opposition, despite a losing streak extending back into last season.
We've identified that we need to really take them on and around the ruck, because if we can move their forwards around and try and get them tired, and then we can go a long way to winning the game.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News. "5 years running, but this feeling doesn't get any less enjoyable."
It was a long week, I won't lie. You know, the boys kept their nerve really well, and that was just a great victory.
It was the ultimate finish. Hamwicks with 10 overs to find 75 runs with 6 wickets in hand, in front of the biggest local crowd both skippers say they've ever seen. The Lions made a clinical start before Sam Webber kick-started the contest with 7 overs left. That got Hamwicks moving. Suddenly the field opened up and the run rate rose. Even luck seemed on their side. But soon after, the first blow came. Skipper Josh Trappel sent for 19. That brought Matt Webber to the crease, and the brothers picked it back up. A rapid 14-run stand, but Tim O'Neill found a way through. The wickets began to fall as Mark Cameron stepped up his attack, but it was Sam Webber's dismissal that signalled the end, caught in the deep thanks to a stunning take from David Sellett. A few balls later, it was over. Merriweather, 24-run winners.
They didn't deserve to be a loser today. You know, both teams fought really hard both weeks, and climax like today, I guess, with a great crowd was a great finish, and yeah, pretty special win.
Definitely not a loser in that game. That's how you want a grand final to be, right down to the wire, and that's exactly what it was. So.
Hamwicks all-rounder Sam Webber was named man of the match, but it was Merriweather's day. 5 times champions in front of plenty of adoring fans.
7 or 8 years ago, we had no kids at Merriweather, so now it's that time, and yeah, it's special for them too.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
It's one of the biggest seafood weekends of the year, but many hunter prawners haven't seen a cent.
Had to go out and buy our own seafood for the first time in a lot of years.
Contamination from the Williamtown RAF base continues to put their incomes on hold, and this was the second key event on the calendar they've missed.
If you don't make your money or Easter, that's your money you put away for the winter time.
The chemical nightmare began last September. The losses since then have been substantial.
Some blokes would have lost up to $100,000. You know, 50 to 100,000 I'd say since Christmas for not working. So it's and that's just the prawners. That's without a lot of the crab and gillnet fishermen around here either. So it's been a big loss for them.
And there's no reprieve in sight for the prawners. This season is effectively a write-off, with fishing bans to extend until June at the earliest. Numbers do look good for a stronger season later this year, but producers are doubtful the local industry will ever bounce back to its former glory.
The brand damage is going to be a lot in it, so the public perception about if we do get back to work to buy the prawns, are they going to buy them?
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
As the day winds down, fishermen flock to the water's edge, shoulder to shoulder, complete with their rods and buckets, hunting hairtail, a fish that's common around this time of year. It's a scene being played out daily, with many anglers even driving from Sydney to cast a line. Others are just curious over what all the fuss is about.
I thought we should come for a fish and, try our luck, and sure enough we did.
Local fishermen say there aren't any more hairtail this season, just more people know about them.
One person lets someone know who lets someone know, and all of a sudden we have a bunch of people up here all having a go.
The fishing frenzy is causing a few headaches though, especially for authorities. A strict bag limit of 10 hairtail per person applies, and fisheries officers have been out in force, already issuing in excess of $5,000 in fines. Hunter Development Corporation, which manages a large portion of harbourside land, has had to employ security. It's also investigating installing temporary cleaning facilities.
We are aware that there has been issues of where the fish are being cleaned and so on and so forth, and we've got to try and manage that.
In the meantime, fishermen are being urged to respect their surrounds so everyone can enjoy the catch of the day. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
A feel-good sale. Haven't had anything like this before.
It's the most fun you can have on four wheels. But forget your average backyard billy cart. Today, Gresford played host to everything from tractors to makeshift police cars and mini caravans. The derby is all about speed, with some drivers putting their bodies on the line to win. And every second counts. This unofficial Jamaican bobsled group pulled out the lycra to dominate the team's event in a gruelling 2-lap sprint.
It's all about dedication, team effort.
Hard work.
A lot of hard work,
yeah. Long hours, yeah.
Lots of training.
Local media also got behind the wheel, yours truly doing her best in a not-so-sleek pink pig.
How do you feel about your first drive in the aggressive billy car derby?
Oh, not so good. I feel like I've well and truly been thrown into this, but we'll see how we go.
Sadly, in the end, this little piggy couldn't bring home the bacon. The real winners of the day, junior and senior champions Maddie Smith and Jason Rampling, who went head-to-head in an all-star grand final. The Vasey Viper and Reva Rocket were well matched, but experience won in the end by just 1/100th of a second.
It was very close. I was lucky to get the win, but I'll take it.
It's a bit of a, head-to-head. Wasn't too sure. I just like to congratulate him.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
Taking off on Easter weekend, but this is no holiday. Loaded up with training equipment, the Knights will be away from Newcastle until Sunday week. After facing the Warriors on Easter Monday, they'll fly straight to Melbourne to prepare for next Saturday's clash with the Storm and attempt to reduce the impact of travelling and a 5-day turnaround on the players. Akuyuwate didn't travel, with coach Nathan Brown opting for Jake Mamo on the wing, a selection headache Brown would have been pleased to have after both battled back from injury this week.
They've really pushed through their injury to try and get to where they are now. So, you know, all the best credit to them. You know, they're putting themselves in a position where they want to play football and get back into first grade.
Jacob Saifidi did travel despite some injury concerns, and so did uncapped prop Josh King, named as 18th man. Speaking yesterday at training, the Knights made their intentions clear.
We're going over there to get a win and nothing else.
But there are still some positions undecided. Either Nathan Ross or Corey Dennis will play at centre, with the other on the wing. Sims says the Knights will try and move the big Warriors forward pack around to create space, and they've also singled out one man they need to shut down, dynamic fullback Roger Tuivasa-Sheck.
Rog, he's always on the chopping block, and you know that's just the way he plays. He's a class player, and you have to really identify what he can do, and you just got to try and limit what he does.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
It was a long week, I won't lie. You know, the boys kept their nerve really well, and that was just a great victory. They didn't deserve to be a loser today. You know, both teams fought really hard both weeks, and climax like today, I guess, with a great crowd was a great finish, and yeah, pretty special win.
Police are still very much trying to piece together exactly what happened at this Cleary Street address in the early hours of Saturday morning when two men tried to detain an alleged thief.
Police were told at that time that the man had broken into a home. A short time after police arrived, the man lost consciousness, and he was treated by ambulance and conveyed to the John Hunter Hospital in a critical condition.
The incident deepened today after the alleged offender's life support was turned off. He passed away soon after, police today not revealing the extent of his injuries.
In time to come, there'll be certainly more information come out to the public, but I can't release any further details at the moment.
A 33-year-old man has been charged over the incident, accused of recklessly inflicting grievous bodily harm. He'll face Newcastle local court on April 21. The other 32-year-old man is not expected to be charged.
A version's been taken off that person, and like I say, investigations are continuing.
The coroner will also investigate whether drugs were involved. Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
For these eager little hunters, there was one thing on their minds this morning. Hundreds today taking part in the Hunter Valley Gardens Easter egg hunt. The race for eggs was frantic and competitive, but no one walked away empty-handed.
It was really hard.
This golden egg, the top of everyone's list.
We were looking for the big egg and I went under the bed and I found it.
But on a day of such religious importance, Easter Sunday was marked in church. At Newcastle's Sacred Heart Cathedral, it was standing room only. Hundreds sharing in the Easter message, both young and old.
Easter is about how, in the end, it's not the evil and the powerful and all the violence and all the rest of it that wins out.
In light of recent events, this year's message is one of mercy.
We often get very scared, but this time is to tell us, don't give up on us. But that's the message of Easter. Don't lose hope in humanity. It is God's world. It's the world in which Jesus is crushed but rises.
Samantha Long, NBN News.
Two surfers who are expected to be contenders in this year's Rookie of the Year race. Ryan Callanan looked right at home, setting the tempo at Big Bells. Abelli had the wobbles early, but eventually found his groove. Surfing tight in the pocket, he hit the critical sections to hammer home an excellent score. Callanan responded immediately with one of the highest single wave scores of the day. Needing a score in the excellent range to pass the goofy footer, Abelli found a bomb to open up. He came unstuck, the ride deemed incomplete, and the heat now in the balance. Abelli got the score and the ocean went flat. Callanan eliminated from the contest.
I knew he would have a really radical approach in the backhand, and I knew after my first wave, I did off the lips and I got an 8. I saw that the judges wanted a little more radical or carves because this is Bell's Beach and I could have got.
A strong challenge in which Nigel Bogard appears to win possession. It resulted in his 9th career red card, and the Jets skipper couldn't believe it. The replay confirming what most people were thinking.
It's very clear to me from the replay he won the ball. So the question should be asked elsewhere. What can I say more? Any time you elaborate more, you get a phone call on Monday morning regarding your actions, so let's just leave it there.
Andy Keogh drove home the penalty to put the result beyond doubt. Earlier, Perth opened the scoring midway through the second half. Newcastle made pay for their inability to clear possession. The Jets were awarded a penalty of their own in the 91st minute when Ryan Kiddo was brought down in front of goal. Mateo Polyak squeezed it home. Some smiles this morning despite their finals hopes now mathematically out of reach. Scott Miller left incensed by missed opportunities.
As a coach, you put them in these positions to replicate that throughout the week. You get them in areas of the field that we can identify a weakness, and we did that repeatedly. And we didn't take the chance. I'd take, for example, Mitch Cooper's chance, and why you'd go high and wide to a goalie who's 6'6", I'll never know.
A sobering end to a brief break. Plenty of traffic on the road, but thankfully minimal incidents for police.
We've recorded no fatals in the region. In terms of injury collisions, we've had 26. Having said that, that's down about 19 from this time last year. So it appears that people are getting the message.
But police say drivers are still going too fast.
Throughout Newcastle and Hunter, there's been 400 infringement notices issued for speeding offences. Our message for people is plan your trip, take your time. If you need to have a break, take a break. Just be patient and arrive home alive.
Officers were certainly busy over the long weekend, conducting 16,000 breath and hundreds of drug tests in the Hunter alone. But the weekend wasn't without some disappointing incidents, including a 28-year-old driver who was allegedly caught drunk behind the wheel twice in the space of 15 hours at Windale. Police will be back on the roads with another major safety operation in a matter of weeks.
Leading up to Anzac Day and through the school holidays, we want people to enjoy their holidays. We don't want to see any more fatal collisions or injury collisions. So it's just basically looking at motorists to be responsible, keep driving to the conditions, slow down and just be patient.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
This Easter long weekend, the Hunter was a sellout.
Full right across our region, from Port Stephens to the vineyards to the lake here in Newcastle, as well as the Upper Hunter.
Spurred on by a seemingly endless summer.
Compared to last year, places like Hunter Valley Gardens, where the wet weather and the coast affects their trade, this year we've had sunshine.
And with so much sunshine, the beach proved especially popular. Today, though, there was just one rather big problem.
At Nobby's today, we've got a deep gutter across the front. The larger waves come through, washes people off their feet, and then the water moves through that gutter quite quickly.
Last-minute holiday dips were put on hold as lifesavers were kept busy closing Merriweather, Dixon Park, Nobby's and Newcastle beaches, so too Newcastle baths, with only Stockton and Bar Beach left open.
Definitely one of the most busy Easters I've worked in, the busiest summer I've seen in Newcastle on the beach.
Last year there were 9 million visitors to Newcastle, and the Hunter injecting $2.3 billion into the economy. Following this bumper Easter long weekend, tourism bosses are confident of doing even better this year.
We're certainly up on last year. Last year was the best year we've had in our region ever.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News. They say every dog has his day, and today was Ulrich's.
Ulrich has developed into an outstanding police dog and is worthy of this nomination. Congratulate Ulrich.
The crime-fighting hunter hound front and centre at Sydney's Royal Easter Show, not for Best in Show but for bravery, awarded the Canine Hero Award. The 2-year-old seemed a bit bemused by all the fuss. After all, he was just doing his job when he found missing 86-year-old Herbert Bartlett alive in bushland at Maitland last year.
Urix picked up Mr Bartlett's scent and has dragged me down this 50-metre ravine down to some thick bushland, and there was Mr Bartlett laying down the bottom of the ravine.
Behind every good dog is his handler, and Ulrich's is Senior Constable David Wynne.
It's always 50-50. I put him in the right spot and he tells me where the people are gone, and we work together.
He was by Ulrich's side for his award.
We spend pretty much 24/7, 7 days a week with each other.
Top dog today and every day.
I wouldn't have any other way. He's my best mate. I get to go to work with my best mate every day. I've got the best job in the world.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
With the Warriors in after just 2 minutes, it looked like a long day for the Knights. But Sam Mataora gave the visitors faith, bustling over from close range. Minutes later, Dane Gagai also crossed, and a boil-over was on the cards. But a Ben Madalino try before the break sent the Warriors to the sheds full of confidence. Blake Ashford touched down early in the second half, tries to Tuamawala Lolahea, and Manu Vatavai quickly followed. The Warriors' dominance coinciding with Sean Johnson's return to form, the playmaker running rampant. A brilliant individual effort from Nathan Ross was nothing but a consolation as the Knights' season continues to crumble.
Some of the tries, there was a couple of them that we let in that were probably, a little bit comical in some ways. There was one or two there that were probably a bit embarrassing, which is unfortunate. And we had maybe 3 one-on-one misses.
He's happy to help out at the family business when he's home. But Aaron Russell's now living life in the fast lane as a V8 supercar driver based in Melbourne.
Full-time on a race car team, work there Monday to Saturday every day. So it is cool. It is cool to rock up to work and get to work on V8 supercars during the week and then, fly away and become a driver, on the weekend.
2 races into his first season in the main game, Russell's eyes are still wide open. It's been a tough initiation, finishing toward the end of the field in both rounds as he gets the feel of his new car. He openly admits it's harder than he anticipated.
It's all about learning for me. It's all about experience, and these guys are some of the best touring car drivers in the world, and the experience that they have is probably showing a lot more than my experience at the moment. Like you said, just absorb it and have fun. Don't get too caught up in where we are on the timesheets. It will happen, it will come. We'll get better with the car and I'll get better driving the car.
The Super Sprint gets underway at Symmons Plains on Friday.
It's been incredible. I'm living my dream. It's something that you've worked so hard for and so many years and dedication and sacrifice for it. So, I find it hard to take the smile off my face.
It's a road trip many of us could only dream of. Mark Pickering and Dave Boddy are gearing up for the race of a lifetime.
It's just a great adventure, great way to see the world.
And they'll be travelling in this.
The car's a 1973 model Datsun. It's a 240Z. It's the sort of car that we used to rally back in the 70s and 80s.
It's all for the Peking to Paris, a rally for cars pre-1975.
The real challenge is being self-sufficient. If the slightest thing goes wrong, you've got to be able to look after it yourself.
The 14,000-kilometre marathon starts on June 12 and will take them from China through Mongolia, Russia, Poland, Hungary and Italy before finishing in France.
We've identified Mongolia is going to be the rough area and very possibly could be won or lost there.
The pair will also have to squeeze all of their equipment, like tools, tents and food, into the Datsun with no support crews allowed. Both have plenty of experience driving and navigating in long-distance events, but they're also relying on their 40 years of friendship to get them through the 5-week journey.
He's kind on me when I'm
when I'm going a bit slow, but so yeah, it's all enjoyable.
We're now older, slower and a bit more sensible, and I think we enjoy it more than 30 years ago when we were deadly serious.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
A moment they knew was coming, but one relatives of Marika Naness still struggled to prepare for.
Are you happy with the result?
We're satisfied.
3 years after the death of the 35-year-old, today, a sense of finality.
Closure's not a thing that happens. We're basically trying to get used to living with a great big hole in our lives, and I don't think that ever goes away.
Marika's boyfriend, Ross Merrick, has been treading a well-worn path to Newcastle Supreme Court during his 3-week trial. This time, though, he wouldn't be walking out. The 12-person jury didn't convict him of murder, instead finding him guilty of the lesser charge of manslaughter. Merrick delivered a single blow to the mother of 3, who fell backwards and hit her head, resulting in her death 2 weeks later.
Any response or any statement following the verdict today?
His legal team tight-lipped, so too his father.
Mr. Merrick, anything you'd like to say following the verdict?
No, thank you. But thank you for your time.
But not Marika's sister.
How are you feeling after an almost 4-week trial?
I'd like to sit down.
Merrick sat emotionless as the verdict was handed down, his bail immediately revoked. His barrister, Tanya Evers, requested a mental health assessment before his sentence set down for the 9th of May.
It does send a message to the community that domestic violence is very, very wrong and it ruins lives.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Benjamin Batterham was expected to apply for bail this morning, but again he chose not to appear in court or make an application. The 33-year-old is accused of killing Ricky Slater-Dixon outside his Hamilton home in the early hours of Saturday morning. Slater-Dixon was allegedly caught breaking into Batterham's Cleary Street house before an altercation took place. Claims disputed by members of Slater-Dixon family who say the father of 3 was at the home for a party. They were at court again today but weren't in the mood to talk.
Go away with your questions, eh? There's no questions, eh?
We don't have
Go
any
away.
questions at the moment. Get out of our face.
The incident has attracted nationwide attention and several petitions are circulating online calling for Mr Batterham's release. One in particular addressed to the state's Attorney General has attracted more than 11,000 signatures. We're expected to get more details on just what happened that morning when the case returns to court on May 25. The last expansion was just 3 years ago, but Cessnock Jail is about to grow again. 620 extra inmates will serve their time here by the end of next year, taking the total to more than 1,400 prisoners and making Cessnock the largest capacity jail in the state. It should bring a welcome boost to local employment, but the Mayor has also expressed some reservations.
When prisoners are allocated to a prison, their family follow them, and that's an issue that we as a community need to cater for. I would hope that we certainly get support from the Department of Corrective Services to help our community in some of the antisocial actions that occur with this increase in population.
Bob Pinsent is also concerned about an increased number of prison vans using council roads.
Prison vans continually coming over our local roads. There's no main road network to get to the centre. We're looking at writing to the Minister and the Parliamentary Secretary for the Hunter to outline our concerns before this expansion takes place.
Along with the extra beds, the state government will force jails to meet performance targets on measures such as out-of-cell hours and participation in rehabilitation activities, or face the prospect of privatisation. Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
It's sat inactive for more than 30 years, but now the clean-up is underway at the Hamilton North Gasworks.
It's heading in the right direction. It might seem to be slow to people outside, but it's the way the system works.
15 wells are now operational, catching groundwater contaminated from coal tar before it reaches Sticks Creek. It's then pumped to a silt extractor to be cleaned before being released as sewerage, a system which the company believes has now stopped contaminated water flowing into the creek.
The plant we got here is first class, so there's no reason why it shouldn't work.
Gemina has been criticised for how long the process is taking, but Graham Funk says that's due in part to decisions made before he took over the project 18 months ago. The finalised remediation strategy will be submitted in June, which will address the majority of contamination on site. While the main round of remediation works are yet to begin, talks are already underway to sell this land. Gemina says it's currently speaking with a number of developers looking to harness the space for commercial use.
I'm not privy to most of it, but there's certainly plenty of interest. I'd say there'd probably be 8 people.
Security has also been increased at the heritage-listed administration building, which has been a target for vandals and squatters in the past. Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
It was a death that rocked the police force. The loss felt right across the region. Sergeant Jeffrey Richardson died when his patrol car slammed into a tree in the Hunter Valley. He was on his way to help with the pursuit. Officers say while they often see the worst of humankind, they're now experiencing compassion like no other. A poem by 13-year-old Tom Finlay posted online for Sergeant Richardson's colleagues and family, touching their hearts.
From the newest of the new to the oldest of the old, when criminal cometh to town, you mustn't worry, for when knights hear thy criminals, they come in quite a hurry.
Today, officers visited Newcastle Grammar School to say thank you to not only Tom, but his peers who wrote sympathy cards.
People think cops are tough, but I guarantee you read one of those poems and you'll be in tears after it. It was just a fantastic effort by them.
I kind of felt sorry for them because I have lost someone in my life as well, so I do know how it feels. You go through all this like grieving and all this stuff, and yeah, I just decided what was the nicest thing to give back to them.
And the force also brought a four-legged friend, treating the entire school to a unique show.
We see the worst of the worst, and some of those worst things we see are committed by kids of this age. We go through a work on a shift and we might see kids of this age committing offences that are horrific towards each other. And then you turn up here at this school and you have kids of this age preparing this sort of thing for us that we wouldn't expect, that is the best of the best.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It was all smiles at training this morning, but the side is less than satisfied with Sunday's loss to Perth.
Basically, we had everything in our hands, but we'll let ourselves down.
With 62% possession, the Jets were dominant, but it was that final touch in front of goal that was lacking.
From the start goal to be the top 6 to fight for the finals, and unfortunately we can't be there anymore, so we can talk about positives throughout the whole season, but at the moment reality is that we failed.
Polyak scored the Jets' only goal from the spot, his first of the season. But while their final hopes are now over, he insists the side is still motivated. On Sunday, they'll face Brisbane, and Newcastle is currently the only team in the league that they're yet to beat. With the Roar fueled by hopes of winning the premiership, that will be tested. Not to mention an ever-dangerous Jamie McLaren.
I think he's mainly a reason for their really good season this year, and we'll have to deal with that somehow. I believe against every single team that we can more than compete, and that we're not easy to beat. So whoever's thinking that it's going to be easy against us, it's really not true.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
He was in a bit of a dangerous position, so I don't think any of us from any side, I don't think anyone's coaching it, and none of us want it to happen to our own players or the opposition, so I'm sure the judiciary will look after it as they generally do.
Storming home down the outside, Lucia Valentina looked to be in top shape at Broadmeadow. Positive signs for Chris Lees, who had more than 30 runners at this morning's trials.
I was quite pleased with the trial. She worked the line quite strong against some sharp horses who show up in shorter races, so under that circumstances she's in the right position.
Today's run designed to blow out the cobwebs following a fourth placing at the Coolmore Classic earlier this month.
Understandably, it's going to be a bit against the best horses in the country. You would think Winks, providing it comes through the Doncaster, has a bit of mortgage on the race, but still racing. Who knows what can happen.
Stablemate Lou Romain is enjoying a well-earned spell and may not feature until the spring. His recent form has surprised Lees.
He's racing against the best 3-year-olds at the moment, but that'll be a next step again next season, as he'll be 4, and certainly a big step up, but he's got the makings of a very good horse.